everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be coding the long-awaited part 2 of the apple catching game. So in this apple catching game, you can not only catch the apples, but you can also go into the sales management part of your farm and sell them. You can make them into apple juice, you can make them into apple jam, and you can sell them for more money, but you have to make the apple juice and apple jelly out of the apples that you've caught. Or you can just sell the apples on your own. So I'm going to be showing you guys how you can make that, and we're going to start by, of course, me sharing my screen. And right now I'm in the apple catching game that I made before. This is actually the shared version because it says shared right here. So if you want to make a separate game from the one that you already have and you don't just want to upgrade the one that you already have that's working fine, then you can press on File and Save as a copy. So now this is a copy, and you can see because at the end of the title it says apple catching copy. So your other version is safe, and we're going to name this, because I just named mine Happy Apple Farms, because it's not really all about apple catching. So in this one, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that it only repeats making clones 10 times, and then it's going to broadcast a message which will make it go into the place where you start selling your stuff. So we're going to do repeat 10 times, and then that's it. And then we need to take out the change score by -1 when they drop it, because if they don't catch it, then they just don't catch it, because they're going to be trying to get as many as they can before 10 apples fall. So if they get 10, then that means that they've caught all of them. So now I'm pretty sure this is all we have to do with the apples. So the next thing we need to do is go into backdrops and create our 2 backdrops. One is the front of the sales office and the inside of the sales office. So I actually have them in my backpack because it took me a really long time to draw these, and it's going to take forever to draw them again. But I used some really simple shapes because I cannot draw, and these 3 things are all from the sprite library. I just changed, this was like a regular jelly jar, and I just changed the colors and put an apple there instead of a bee, because it was a bee before because it was a jar of honey. But anyway, so I used just some rectangles. This is the wall, the computer, and I just put some lines, put products and actions. So in the products and actions, it's going to say how many of them you have. So we're going to have variables for each of those 3 things, and then the actions will be you can either sell them or make them, because you're not going to have any apple jelly or apple juice in at first, so you're gonna have 0 of those. You're gonna have to make them out of the apples that you need. And the buttons that are going to be here, you'll also be able to hover over them and see like how much money you'll get from selling them and how much apples you need to make them. So then I also have the sales management part of the Happy Apple Farm that I need to move this because it didn't go over exactly right. There we go. And then I need to move this also. So this little box right here shows what you can see inside the frame, like this thin white line. So you need to make sure that everything you're making fits inside of there, or else they won't be able to see it. And if it's a little too big, and remember, you can select everything by doing Control A, or you can just drag this little box to do it. And let me zoom out a little bit so I can get the edges. Make it a little bit smaller so we can fit it all in there. So now it looks like we're in a computer, but as you can see, these apples and the apple basket should not be showing while we're in this backdrop. So before we code it so that it has to change that backdrop, let's make sure that it is not showing once it does. So I just duplicated both of these because I need the hide button. I didn't feel like going to get it, but I also needed the when backdrop switches too. So I'm just going to delete the show and that one. And so you'll need when backdrop switches to sales management, because it's going to go to the outside of the office, then to the inside. So when it switches to the outside, hide, because we don't want it to show at all, even once it gets to its final destination. Then we'll also drag this into the apple and drag this into the bowl. So both of those will do that. And then we need the score variable to not show either. And the score variable and the variable for the apple will not be the same, because your score sets to 0 every time you start catching again. So now we need to make it so that at the end of your catching, which is after it goes 10 times, it will switch to this backdrop. So let's get an event and do broadcast, and then we'll get a new message called go to office. And we just want that to be a broadcast, not broadcast and wait. So let's put in go to office, and then let's go to backdrops and get when I receive go to office, then go to looks and get switch backdrop to sales management, and then switch backdrop to computer. And then we're going to need to put a wait about 2 seconds in between them. So then once it does that, we're also going to need it. So let's just test this out first and see what happens. So we have the beginning screen, play, and then we get the apples. And this is going to go 10 times before it actually will switch to the thing. So we might need to wait a while. But basically what's going to happen is you get 10 apples and then it should switch to the thing. But the player might be wondering why it switches to the sales management office. So before it does that, we're going to have it say like the day is over. But let's just check and see if this works before we add that. We'll probably do that at the very end. So we've got 8 apples so far. And the next thing we're going to do after this is make the okay, so it's gone 10 times, and so now it's going into the office. Perfect. So the next thing that we need to do is make the variables here so it knows how many we have. So let's go to variables, create a variable for apples, apple jelly, and apple juice. So then all of these, so right click on apples, and if you don't have a right side of your mouse, you can just use your 2 fingers and click on them at the same time, and it does that. Then do large readout, and then move that there. Then apple juice, right click and large readout, and then put that next to it. If you're ever moving them around and you forget which one is which, then you can just switch them back to the normal readout and you'll be able to see which one it is. So we'll switch that to the large readout and put that right in the middle. Then we don't want the score to be showing, but we also need these only to show if we're in the inventory. So let's go to backdrops. Then we'll do when backdrop switches to blue, not game over, blue sky. Then when backdrop switches to sales management. And we also don't need a game over function. So let's go to the backdrops and get rid of the game over thing, and let's go to the apples and make sure that there is no game over. So let's just delete that and get rid of times apple has been dropped. So we don't need that at all. So let's go back to the code, and when it switches to blue sky, let's go to variables. Then we want it to hide apple jelly, hide apples, hide apple juice, and then we also need a variable for money. So we're just going to put a $sign because that's going to be that one's going to stay in its normal readout. And then let's go back to the computer so we can see what's happening. And then we'll put this like right here. And when it goes to sales management, we want it to also hide the score. And when it switches to blue sky, we want it to show the score. And when it switches to sales management, we want it to show apple jelly, apple juice, and apples. And the apples are not going to be always the same as the score. The apples will be what the apples already are plus what the score is. Because let's say when you came to the office, you didn't sell all of your apples, you still had 2 apples, then you went back and you got 10 more apples. You wouldn't want it to just sync to exactly what the score is. You would want it to be what the apples already are plus a score. So then you would have 2 plus 10, which is 12. But if you made it exactly what the score is, you'd only have 10 apples, and the player's going to be wondering, where do the apples that I already had go? So we have to make sure that that's working. Okay, so we have it hiding the score variable, showing the apple jelly juice and apples, and then showing the money variable. Then when it switches to blue sky, we also wanted to hide the money variable. Okay, so now we have these are all going to, so now we have exactly what we need showing up, and then we're going to need some buttons. So to make the buttons, we will paint one. And then you guys already know that when I make my buttons, I like to do them with the border of it matching the text on the inside. So I'll have the inside black and the outside, I'll have the inside white and the outside black, and then type in black on the inside because I think it just looks nice that way. So this button will say sell, and then make that the serif one because that's the font we've been using this whole time. We want to keep it consistent. And let's make sure this is also in the center. Then we'll take all of that and make it smaller so that it can fit. We'll put this here. That's a little bit too tall. Let's make it a teeny bit wider. Then let's actually put this back in the center so that it's all even. And I think that will fit 3. So we're going to have a sell button and a make button. So the sell button, we're going to need a, so let's go to the tree and get this when it switches to sales management, hide, and the show. And we're just going to switch around the hide and the show and drag that here and this. So we want it, when it switches to blue sky, hide, because we don't want it. When it switches to sales management, we do want it to hide, and when it switches to the computer, we want it to show. So then for the sell button, we're going to need, let's go to the code and get when this sprite is clicked, because this is a button, if they have more than 1 apple, which if they have more than 0 apples, then it can sell, and if not, then it will not sell, because they can't just sell things that they don't have any apples and get money for it anyway. So if We're going to need an if else. Then go to operators and get a more than. Then go to variables and get apples. So if apples equals more than 0, then change money by, let's say, $2, and then change apples by -1. So it takes away 1 apple. Change that to apples and then -1. Because if you add -1 to something, then it takes away 1. So now we have it so that they can sell the apples, but if they don't have enough apples to sell, then we will have it say, since this is a computer, we'll make it say error, not enough inventory. And then we also need it, we're also going to do it so that whenever you're hovering over it, it will tell you how much you get from selling it. So when start clicked, we need a forever loop. Then sensing if touching mouse pointer, and I'll get an if touching mouse pointer, then say plus $2. And then we will duplicate this for the next one. And then we'll just change this variable to apple jelly and apple juice, and then make it so that it will, since apple jelly, you have to make it, it will give you more money. So let's say that this will be worth $4. Oh, okay, apple jelly is worth $4, and it will take away your, oh yeah, it's apple jelly. So it will take away one of your apple jellies when you sell it and give you $4. And if you don't have enough apple jelly, then it will say error, and then let's change this to $4. So now we will duplicate that one more time for the apple juice. And I don't know if you guys have ever had apple juice before. Not apple juice, of course you've had apple juice. Well, you might have had apple juice. But apple jelly is a little bit rare. I've had it a couple times before, and it's pretty good. I think the first time I had it was at my grandma's house, and it was really good. So this will be worth $6. I just put 56. I think it's 6. So now let's make the make button so that they actually have to use their apples to make these 2 other foods. So we're going to duplicate this again, but instead they're going to change their apples by -1, and we'll say if apples equals more than, so we'll say we need 2 apples to make apple jelly, so it has to have more than 1. So not more than 2, because that would mean that they have to have 3. So if it's more than 1, then that means that they have to have 2. And one exception would be that if they had like $1.50, but there is no point where we would give them 50 cents of anything, so that's safe. And this would not change their money by anything. It would change their apple jelly by 1. And then while it's hovering over it, we'll make it say that it needs 2 apples. And let's go into the costume and make sure that this says make, so that it will be different from the other ones. And this one is for apple jelly, so let's put this here. And I think they're a little bit too big. They might be. And I'll have the cells on the same line. So this one, let me make sure that this one is, which one this cell is for. So this one is for apple juice. So that one will go on this row. And this one will go here. And let's make sure that they're on the same x coordinate. This one's on 25, this one's on 26. And then the make should be on the same coordinate as the first, same x coordinate as the first one. So that one's negative 42 and negative 42. So those are both on the right line. And then let's make the last make for apple juice. And we'll change this to apple juice, and it's going to need 3 apples for this. So let's change that to 2. And we'll change this to 3. So it says it needs 3 apples. And then, so I think all of that works. Oh, we needed to change the apples not by -1 but by -3. And then let's go back here and say it'll change apples by -2. So it takes away 2 apples and you get 1 apple jelly. And let's put this on the right place. Okay, so now we have our makes and cells. So let's make sure that those work. I'm just gonna go into the variables and give myself some apples. So let's do set apples. This is just for testing. Let's set apples to 34 and then click on it to run it. So now I have 34 apples and I can make them. I lose 2 and I get one of these. And then if I sell this, I get 6, I get 10. Oh, I don't get 10, I get 4, and that makes it 10. And now if I have 0, it won't let me sell it. And then I get more money, and then I can also sell the apples individually. So now we need a button that will make it go back to the blue sky. So let's just duplicate this play button because they both have similar functions. And when it's clicked, we want it to switch to sales management, hide. And sales management is just the outside of the office. Wait 2 seconds and then switch it to blue sky. There we go. So let's also make this look like the other ones. So this won't be burgundy, this will be black. And this outline will also be black. And then let's make this showing so that we can actually see how big this is. And then let's make this smaller. And then a little bit bigger than that. Let's see, why aren't those hiding? So when it switches to, oh, I have them backwards. So let's switch these around. And I haven't clicked on start, so a lot of the scripts aren't working. So when start is clicked, we want this to hide. And when it goes to the computer, we want it to show. So when backdrop switches to computer, show, and when backdrop switches to sales management, hide. Oh, we're in the wrong one. So let's actually put that back to switch the backdrop to start screen. Then let's go to cell, and not the cell, the play button. And we want it to hide at the start. And when it switches to computer, we want it to show. That's the only place that we want it to be showing, is at the computer, so that they can go back to playing and catching the apples. So we'll have when backdrop switches to computer, show. And then let me make sure this is, yeah, so this should show. And then we can play. And let's make sure this is working this way. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Okay, there's something wrong here. So when it switches to sales management, we want everything to hide, but we want it to show when it goes to the computer. So the only two things we're going to have here is computer and sales management. And then let's duplicate the one where they're all hiding to one that is when it starts, and take off the show score. So it should show, it should hide everything at the start screen. Then let's reattach this. And the score variable should also hide when it goes to the start screen. There we go. So now you can see the score only when you're catching the apples, and then after you catch 10 apples, it's going to take you to the sales management place, and then you can sell the apples that you have. But oh, there's one thing we forgot to do. When it switches to sales management, you'll have it set apples once you catch them to, then go to operators and get this +1, so it has like a blank plus blank. Then change that to go to variables and get apples and score. So change that to apples plus score, and then we'll have set apples to what apples already is plus the score. And then let's have that do it only when it's at the computer. And then let's continue. So now it's going to add what you get in your score here to what apples you already have, and we can test if this works by going back to it and keeping some of our apples instead of selling them, and then once we come back later, we'll see if it added to them instead of just replacing it with what the apples already are. So we've got 6 so far. And if you ever missed how you make this catching part, then there is a link down in the description to the part 1 where I show you how to make it so that you can catch it and the basket fills up and all that sorts of cool stuff. And one thing that there's like no way around is making it so that you have to let go of the basket so that it can catch it, because Scratch doesn't register its coordinates unless you stop dragging it. So let's we can't move this just by dragging it around because it'll think you're clicking it. So we're gonna have to change the natural coordinates ourselves. Let's make this 100, or let's do 120, and then the y like +30. Let's do +40. or positive 50. There we go. So we've got 9 apples. And now it's telling us how much each thing needs. And let's make that a little bit shorter because they're all doing it at the same time. So we'll have it only go for 1 second. And 1 second. This will be 1 second. 1 second. And 1 second. There we go. That's a little less chaotic. So now I can make some jam. And I can sell some. We also see I still have $72 here, so let's make sure that we set the money to 0 at the beginning. And you can just stick that anywhere from when the start clicked. And then let's go back to playing it. We still have 7 apples. And our basket is still full because we've got apples before. So, of course, we have to keep playing. This is going to take a little bit of a while. But after this, we will be almost done. It is optional for you to add a little pop-up before it goes over so that the player's not confused. But you can add it, so I'll show you how to do that once we finish testing this part out. And you probably noticed that since I've been talking for like, I don't know how many minutes, my voice is getting kind of like crackly. But that's okay. Let's see. This is so far 32 minutes long. Yay! So now we're going there, and I have 16 because I had 7 before and I caught 9. So that's working. I can make some more of these and I can sell them and earn lots of money. And then if I keep trying to get them, then it'll say error, not enough inventory because I have nothing. But I do have $104. So before it does that, let's see. So I have it so that when it receives go to office, then switch back to sales management, wait 2 seconds, and switch it to the computer. Also, guys, if you don't want to draw all of the stuff that I made for the backdrops, once I post this, you can just go inside of it and you can drag the backdrop into your backpack like I have it here. And I'll probably make a video later about how you can use the backpack later, but because you can take things from other people's projects, but you also need to make sure that you always give them credit for it. But I don't mind if you guys use this backdrop so you can just get to coding, because it's going to take a really long time to just draw it. So back to what we were doing here. So let's draw a new thing, and this will say the day is over. So we make a little banner. Make the text black and say day is over. Then we'll make that a little bit bigger, but not that big. And make sure everything's in the center so it's even. And then let's make the outside a little bit thicker. So we want this to pop up. Make the coordinate 0, 0. So we want this to pop up and go to the front before it changes. So let's make a new message. When I receive pop up, I put po up, but whatever. When I receive pop up, then show, go to front, wait a couple, like 1 second, and hide. Then hide. Let's make this 2 seconds. And we're going to go to backdrops, and to make sure that this happens before it switches to go to office, then we'll go to events and get broadcast and wait, and then have it broadcast pop up and wait. So that means that it's going to wait until whoever is receiving pop up is done with their entire script, and then it'll move on. So when it receives go to office, which means that they're done catching things, then it will broadcast for the pop-up to come. It'll come and it'll go. Then it will switch to sales management office and like behind the computer. Wait, what is happening? Oh, you forgot to make it so that at start these will all hide. So let's duplicate this and put blue sky, and when it switches to start screen, hide, and then duplicate that into everything. Oh, it's doing something weird. Did I do? Oops, that's going to full screen. So if it starts moving things around when you don't want them to move around, then you can just switch the view to this view where it's smaller, but it still works. And I might be doing some of these over again, but if you have it twice, then it doesn't do anything different. So now those are all hidden, so that's good. And then if we play it, then we'll just go until 10 so that it will show me that the day is over. And you can also add some sound effects like a cha-ching when you sell something, or like a stirring sound when you make something so it seems like you're baking it, or like a juicing sound when you're making apple juice. You can add anything that you want. And if you ever want to add something to this game that you don't know how to add, then just comment on the example project that I posted, and you can, and then I will tell you how you can add something, because I always want to help you guys out and make sure that you can add whatever you want and make your game exactly what you want it to be, because that's something everybody should be able to do. And if you ever want to suggest a game to make like the one that I made before, then you can do that, and I'll put a link to the description to where you can suggest a game for me to make. So as we can see, that worked, and it said days over before it went into the office. So we are now done with this game. Let's save it. Remember, always save your work. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys will be able to follow this tutorial and improve your games. I will see you next time. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any videos. Bye!